right, this is journal page 12. This is what we're using in class. Of course, if you can print it, print it. If not, then we're going to handwrite it. And so we're on page 12 of our journal. And we're going to title it Solving One-Step Equations and Inequalities. At any point during this video, if you need more time or if you need to stop, then please just pause it and push play when you're ready. So we're going to write over here to the side, reminders. Ooh, it'd be nice if I can spell. Reminders. All right. So our goal is going to be to get a positive variable and solve for it. Alright, so variable is a letter or a symbol, normally a letter, that is unknown to us. It can represent any number, hence the word variable, which means it can change. So it can represent any number, but once we put it into an equation, it represents a specific number, and that's what we're going to be working on. Now, if you say, Ms. Joel, this kind of sounds familiar, it should, because in 7th grade you solved for variables, and in 6th grade you solved for variables. And that's what we're going to be doing well. So we're going to do a little loop with an arrow. Loop with an arrow. So we are going to use inverse operations to undo. And so we're going to make a little note. Addition and subtraction, that's a double arrow, are opposites. Multiplication is an opposite with division. And a new one is that a square root is the opposite of something being squared. So I'm just going to do a squared. Those undo each other. Alright, we're going to do another loop with an arrow, or you can just do an arrow. I don't really care. As we're going to keep the equation balanced. So our motto will be, what you do to one side, you must do to the other. I've always thought of it as just being fair. Okay, so whatever you do to one side, you must do to the other side. And our third little reminder is that we're going to check our work. Now, those of you who are temporary virtual, or that will be coming back, we will be learning how to do this on our graphing calculators. And so when you come back, I will definitely show you how to do it. The rest of you, you're just going to plug it in and solve for it. Our graphing calculator has a cool little trick it does to help check your work. It won't do it for you, but it will definitely check it. Make sure it's the correct answer. So we're going to plug in our variables and solve. All right. And then I want you to draw a line. And we're going to split the bottom in half. All right, so let's look at our first example. First example is x plus 9 equals negative 10. Now, every year I have students who just sit here and guess and check. They sit there and they plug in different numbers until they find something that works. And that's not how we're going to do it. For this class and for algebra next year in 9th grade, you will draw a line down the equals. Because remember, we want to keep this equation balanced. It's like a one of those balancing scales. I always think of the lady for justice who stands there with the little scale. Some of you might know what I'm talking about. And whatever I put to the left side, I put on the right side. If I add to this left, then they're not equal anymore. I know that's kind of hard to see from an angle, but I have to do the same thing for them to stay equal to each other. And so the opposite of addition is subtraction. So I'm going to subtract this 9. And I'm going to do it to both sides. My goal is to get this variable by itself. So I want to get rid of anything that's with that variable. And right now, that plus 9 is with my variable. These cancel. 9 minus 9 is just 0, leaving me with just x. And negative 10 minus 9 is negative 19. Okay? Now we're going to check it in. We're going to plug it in. So negative 19 was my x. So negative 19 plus 9 does equal negative 10. So it is correct. Let's look at another example. 2 equals negative 3 plus m. I like this example for two different reasons. First, my variable, my letter, is on the right side. That's okay. It's okay if my variable is on the right side. I also like this problem because it doesn't use an x. We can use any letter we want to. There are a couple letters we don't usually use. We don't usually use an O because it looks like a 0. We don't usually use a lowercase l unless it's a cursive one because it looks like a 1. We also don't use, a lot of times you won't see an I used just because it has some different meanings in high school. But those are mainly the letters that you won't use. I don't like using S just because it looks like a 5, especially the way some of you write. And so you can use any letter you want. Draw my line. Always draw your line. All right, so I'm going to, opposite of addition is subtraction. And I'm going to subtract the negative 3. Okay. Add a line, change a sign, cancel those two, which means I'm just adding a 3. So I'm going to add a 3 to this side. 2 plus 3 is 5. These canceled, leaving me with m. You can plug it in. Negative 3 plus 5 does equal positive 2. All right, example number 3. We are doing 4 examples on each side. All right, so this time we have a division or fraction. Fraction and dividing are the same. I'm going to draw my line. And this is division. So the opposite of division is to multiply. So I'm going to multiply times 3. Times 3. These cancel, leaving me with just x. 20 times 3 is 60. 60 divided by 3 is 20. Hopefully you didn't write as big as I did. One more problem. Negative 5z. Some people like to put the line through the z. I usually do just because it looks a lot like the way I write 2's sometimes, kind of depending on how I'm writing 2's that day. Draw my line. This is multiplication. Anytime I have a letter and a number right next door to each other like that, it is multiplication. And this negative 5 is called the coefficient. And a coefficient attaches to that variable. They're like best friends, and it means multiplication. All right? So opposite of multiplying is to divide by negative 5. Divide by negative 5. Leaving me with z equals negative 25 divided by negative 5 is just a positive 5. All All right, let's go to the other side. And we're going to look at some inequalities. So D plus 20 is greater than or equal to 8. So we're going to draw a line. Okay. And I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides. This leaves me those cancel. And D, 8 minus 20 is negative 12. And then we look at the symbol. Okay, our symbol is going to stay the same for this one, but we need to make a little note. If you multiply or divide by a negative, flip the sign. And we are going to bubble that. And please guess bubble it. I know boys are like, what? I don't like to bubble. I know, but I want it to stand out. If you have a highlighter and you want to highlight it, that's fine too. It is important. I'll do mine a different color just to make it stand out even more. Because it is important. And because we didn't multiply or divide by negative, we subtracted, we get to keep that sign. So let's look at number 6. Number 6 is B minus 12 is less than 10. So we're going to draw a line. The opposite of subtracting 12 is adding 12, the inverse. So keep my B. 10 plus 12 is 22. And I did not multiply or divide by a negative, so my sign is going to stay the same. All right, let's look at number 7. So I have 1/2 x is greater than negative 8. Draw a line. All right, that is multiplication. So the opposite of multiplying is to divide. But before we write divide, I'm going to show you a little thing. So if I have 1/2 x, I want to divide 1/2 by 1/2. Right? So to divide fractions, don't ask why. Flip the second and multiply. And I know y'all learned that in Miss Hoffpower's class, because I used to hear her say it all the time. And that's how we cancel. So really what I used was multiplying by my reciprocal. And I also know reciprocal is not a new word, because I know Miss Heyman used it, if you were here in New Waverly. If you were any other district, they're supposed to also have taught you that. So for this number 7, we're going to multiply times the reciprocal. So we're going to multiply times 2 over 1, which is the same as just multiplying times 2. Negative 8 times 2 is negative 16. In this step, did I multiply or divide by a negative? No. So I'm going to keep my sign the same. Now there was a negative in the first part, but I multiplied the negative 8 by the 2. Not the other way around. All right. One last example, and we are done with our notes for today. And we have negative 2h is less than or equal to 13. Draw my line. This is multiplication, so I'm going to divide by negative 2, divide by negative 2. These cancel, leaving me with h. 13 divided by 2 is negative. We can keep it as negative 13/2. I'm perfectly okay with that. But I divided by a negative. Divided by the negative. So I'm going to flip my sign. So now it's going to open that direction. All right. We'll be talking about these more. We'll be looking at both kind of examples over the next couple